The Microsoft Power Platform Conference just happened, and I wanted to see what ALM and industry expert Parvez Ghumra had to say about the things that are changing the Power Platform as we know it, and the impact these things are going to have on us as Power Platform professionals. Here's the conversation right now. Hey, welcome to this week's episode of PowerTalks. My name is Griffin Lickfelt, the host of the Citizen Developer channel and PowerTalks podcast. And today I'm joined by special guest Parvez Ghumra. Parvez, thank you so much for being here, man. I say this every episode, super stoked for this conversation, especially considering what happened last week. And that is the Power Platform Conference. I had so much FOMO on LinkedIn, all right, from everybody that was there, because I was not. But you were there. And so, I want to ask, what were some of the standout announcements from Power Platform Conference this last year?
Yeah, it was well. Firstly, thanks so much for having me here, Griffin. It's been amazing just to be on this platform with you here today. I've been a big fan of your show for a long time, and I know you've had some amazing guests here as well. So it's amazing and surreal to be speaking to you here today. So I really appreciate your time in what you do and the amazing things you're doing in the community. Yeah, Power Platform Conference last week was amazing. It was I think the largest conference I've ever been to. 7,500 people turned up from all over the world, and a lot of people from the Microsoft product engineering groups as well. So for me, that was one of the biggest kind of appealing factors, being able to connect with them on a level, and to the point that they actually recognize you for your activity, online in the community, and being able to talk to them about specific niche areas that are of interest to you. So, just to be able to do that was amazing. And discuss things like, what's on the roadmap and the platform, what's coming in terms of new features. So I really enjoyed that aspect. But as has been the buzz for a long time now, you'll know from all the other content being created, it's really it's almost funny that the tables are really turning as to what the platform is now becoming. So for a long time, the focus was very much on the low-code story about being able to produce, really quality software solutions, and being able to deliver them quickly and really lowering the barrier to entry for people, and being able to do that without technical knowledge and knowledge of coding and programming, etc. So that was the story for a long time. But now it's like, with all of this generative AI coming into the platform, being able to build components and software in the platform without any of that knowledge, really. So you can give it basically natural language prompts, and the LLMs behind it can produce all of the components and software that you need. And that's coming into all various different parts of the platform, from building the data model to building the apps, and now even in the agent world as well. So as I say, the tables have totally turned. You don't no longer need to use the point and click type interface to do all of this stuff, and what you do need really now is the appreciation of what the code is doing, right? So one of the features that excites me now is generative pages is gone into GA for the US region now, and the big announcement around that was the fact that it's actually, for me personally, because I'm an ALM person, they are solution aware now, so you can actually deploy them nicely across your environment. So there was huge cheers for that when that was announced as well. So that's something I'm really excited about. But as I say, it's meant that the tables have turned somewhat. You need to kind of understand, at least have somebody in the team who can understand the React code that's being generated from something like that, so you can understand what it's doing, and perhaps tweak your prompts to make it do something better, or get a better outcome out of it. And ultimately, you're going to need to kind of support and maintain this thing as well. So it's no longer about the no code, low code. ironically, that was something that kind of got me into this in the first place. But it's more about what I had done prior to entering the low code world. It's more about the pro code now. So it's a really kind of funny situation to be in at the moment. So yeah, I think that's it's pretty mind boggling, I would say.
Definitely, definitely. Now, I will say I am an AI, a Copilot, an agent fanboy for sure. You're right. Like I spend so
Hmm.
much time learning about it, creating content about it. And obviously at these big events, Microsoft is trying to sell this stuff, right? And hype it up and get people really excited about it and everything. I mean, the biggest conversation though, right? Like, what was it, several months now when everyone started talking about vibe coding and the effects of this or whatever, like, from your perspective, from having that technical background, being really passionate about ALM, like, I mean, how do you foresee these sort of things and maybe some of the updates from the Power Platform conference? How do you see those things influencing application lifecycle management?
It's definitely an interesting space to be right now because there was a time previously where you had to effectively craft all of your pipeline definitions from scratch manually, right? Reading the documentation as to how it's supposed to be done, and then constructing all of those things manually. But now, because it's all YAML based and you're doing it all in Visual Studio Code, you've got a GitHub Copilot with you by your side, and I'm just writing out natural language prompts, telling the LLM, write me a pipeline to do this, and it's getting me like 70-80% of the way there. I still need to apply my own kind of perspective, my own expertise into it to say, okay, I want to structure the process slightly differently, so I don't want this step here. Maybe I'll have this step in a separate pipeline that triggers afterwards. So that kind of engineering mindset is what's required now, rather than having the low level technical implementation knowledge. So you need to kind of, if you're a developer now, you probably need to think more like an architect instead, whereby you're looking at the bigger picture. You're looking at, what are the desired outcomes in terms of, which capabilities I need to use in the platform. Is there any standard features or functionality I can leverage here? What are the dependencies? How's it all going to hang together? How's it all going to perform, etc. So you need to think about a different kind of dimension to the kind of stuff that you're building now. So it's definitely shaped the role quite significantly, I would say. There's definitely stuff to be thinking about, I think. So there's some interesting times ahead, I'd say.
Definitely. And especially, I feel like right now we're on the cusp of where, because, a lot of these agentic solutions and Copilot and all this stuff started getting pushed out. And it's no secret that the adoption, one, the people who have purchased licenses is low, but then also the adoption of people who are purchasing licenses is also low. And I think almost unanimously, I mean, if you scroll on LinkedIn for 2 minutes, you'll run into a post about AI governance. Like almost, I think the biggest, most unanimous fear regarding that is organizations are like, all right, whoa, let's pump the brakes here. Like, how do we manage this correctly? Because, a multitude of reasons. But I feel like right now is where a lot of those tools that help with some of that visibility, some of the reporting, some of the managing what stuff is talking to, what agents have been built throughout your organization. I feel like some of those tools are starting to, kind of get announced and very new, whatever. Are there were there anything was there anything announced like regarding speaking to that fear that a lot of organizations have? And maybe this wasn't, Charles Lamanna or something in his keynote, but maybe some particular sessions from speakers or different things that you went to that really stood out to address that?
Yeah, to be honest, because there's multiple tracks, I'm sure there would have been some topics around governance and those kinds of areas as well. But unfortunately, I missed all of them, because it's hard to get to everywhere, right? But yeah,
Sure.
the whole governance things and managed environments and all of those managed parts of the platform that have been coming in over the recent months and years. I'd be very surprised if there's no kind of progression on those as well. But yeah, it's something I need to catch up on with
Yeah.
other folks who went to some of those sessions as well.
what was a really cool session then that you went to
I would say
or
Thomas
participated
Prokop did
in?
a
All right, I don't.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so
Sorry.
there's that's okay. A chap called Thomas Prokop from Czechia. He did a really good session. It was the last session of the conference on test automation, and testing is obviously a big part of ALM, and this is why it was of interest to me. So I went to that. Now, traditionally, testing has been manual, right? And it's, some have even argued that it's out of the box, it's low code, no code. You don't need to spend that much time testing it because why should you be testing Microsoft code, etc. But a lot of the time, I have a natural bias towards enterprise projects because that's where my experience has been, and in those there's a large amount of customization. So testing is something that can't be overlooked at all. But because of the scale of these things, that testing effort is massively underestimated. It takes a long time to actually perform the quality assurance that you need at the level that you need. So, and now with AI coming into it's meant that there's a potential that solutions will be built a lot quicker, but that also means they need to be tested a lot faster as well, so that the test and quality assurance can keep up with the pace and make sure that delivery timelines are not impacted as a result. So the session that Thomas presented was really about getting that accelerated quality assurance process going using a pattern that's known as behavior-driven development, and he's using agents to automate all of this thing in natural language as well. So that was fascinating to see. It's something I need to spend a bit more time on and understand a little bit about. But the clever thing is, it's behind the scenes, is still using technologies that are quite well known for testing, things like Playwright, which you can then integrate into your pipelines, etc. So that's really, really cool, and really, really, really happy to see that sort of stuff coming in.
Yeah. Okay. So I need to be honest for two reasons. One, I a lot of times I can be so excited about building that I just really deprioritize testing the stuff I build, and it hasn't really bit me in the butt like massively, but definitely is like, shoot, I didn't think about that. All right,
Yeah,
definitely has gotten me. That is, I will
yeah,
admit that is a fault of mine. But if I'm ever interviewing for a job, I'm a super thorough tester. All right, but nonetheless,
yeah,
you know what I mean. um,
yeah.
Secondly, I feel like I know nothing about automated testing. And I know there's some, like you said,
Hmm.
some tools out there for it and things that can help, especially, I get ALM is your world and whatnot, but even like testing AI agents, there's like bulk automation testing and things like, can you explain maybe at a high level what, this is a little off topic, but who cares? Like what automated testing kind of looks like compared to,
Hmm.
hey, I'm manually clicking around this app and testing it and, testing the
Yeah,
flow and whatnot. Like, what does that even kind of look like? Where do you start?
yeah. I mean, so there's different levels of testing, right? And a lot of the time when we talk about automated testing, it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking, okay, it's only about writing the test scripts for my smallest component of software, so they are unit tests effectively, and the automation of part of it is basically I am running those up as part of my automated build process in an Azure DevOps pipeline or something like that. But now there's also UI-based test automation. So all the things that you're doing as a user, pointing and clicking and in using an application and filling out data, etc. on forms, selecting views in a model-driven app as an example, all of those steps are basically steps that a user would be executing when they're running the application in the live environment. So in order to test all of those steps, what you do is you script up all of those actions and then you run those scripts as following a deployment. So after you've deployed your solution against the actual environment, you are running those test scripts. So those actions are actually running in what's known as a headless manner. So it's not actually displaying the UI, but it's still running those tests and potentially spitting out results off the back of that. So screenshots of videos or logs of what's happened as a result of running those tests. So that's really, really cool. And then you can even take it further such that, if there's any issues that are identified as a result of those tests, then that translates to a failed deployment effectively, because something's gone wrong, something's not worked as expected. So essentially, that build you can abandon at that point in time, and it kind of creates that feedback loop of, somebody needs to make a change to then fix that bug afterwards.
If you are liking the conversation, be sure to let me know by liking the video and commenting down below what it is specifically you are getting out of it. And if you are interested in learning more about the Microsoft Power Platform, you're going to want to click on the first link down in the description down below to get access to a beginner's Power Platform guide led by me. This is a completely free, self-paced course that has hand-picked knowledge, everything that you need to know to be able to go and get your first Microsoft certification as soon as possible. The reality is not a lot of people can say they love what they do, and I feel very blessed to be able to say that I enjoy what I do for work as a Microsoft consultant. And if you want to start that journey alongside me today, be sure to follow and click on the first link down in the description down below. Now let's get back to the conversation. Yeah. So, okay. You've spurred another question. First one, and maybe this is just a yes or no. Are there like Microsoft tools out there that are already within the Power Platform or the Microsoft tech stack to help do this? And I'm sure there's like some Azure services that are out there that can help do this. Are there pieces out there to help?
Yeah, so there's something called Test Engine in the Power Platform, which is originally it was designed just for Canvas apps, but Microsoft are investing heavily in that, and I think recently it's available for model-driven apps as well. But that gives you this almost like a no-code, low-code experience towards testing and automated testing as well. So that's the feature that's built into the platform that you can use. But under the hood, it's actually built on the Microsoft Playwright framework, which is, as I say, it's a Microsoft tool, but it's more built towards it can be used for testing non-Power Platform applications or non-Power Platform solutions. But it's built on that foundation, on that framework. So you can extend it using Playwright. You can write Playwright scripts that plug into Test Engine. And talking to the product groups at Microsoft, they are investing quite a lot into that as well. So those are the current options as it stands. In the past, you might have heard of something called Easy Repro. That was like a Selenium-based framework to do test automation. Selenium is another framework for people who have been in the web development space for some time. They'd be familiar with those kinds of things as well.
Do you feel like, so then when you're like automated testing, I just imagine it's like a computer clicking on every possible button within the app. I mean, is that at a like, if you were to oversimplify it, what it's doing? Like, how is it testing it? That's what I guess I don't understand.
Yeah, so I mean, when you're building an application, as an example, you are building a business process, a piece of functionality whereby a user is going through a certain series of steps, excuse me, to create records or update records in a certain order, and then verifying the outcome of that. If there's a series of automation that triggers off the back of that, you need to verify that automation is triggering, etc. So the test is basically, if I click this button, does the UI, for example, change and display this set of records, or does this automation fire and populate this additional field here? If I click over this tab, does it actually display the right section of the form, etc.? So those are the kind of outcomes that you'd be testing for.
Perfect. No, that makes sense. Okay, well, there you go. We just took a little side note for me to learn about automated testing, because that's definitely something I've procrastinated learning about. So I appreciate that. Are there, back to the Power Platform Conference. Sorry, bringing it back. What kind of like, how do you think some of these new releases, or the session that you talked about implementing this automated testing and stuff, how do you feel like this is going to continue to impact developers and businesses' approach to low-code solutions?
Oh, massively, right? Because as I said at the start, it's almost no longer about low code anymore. It's still about lowering the barrier to entry, but that's manifests itself in a way such that, you know, low code solutions are no longer the biggest selling point, right? It's being able to, well, are you now, well, you now need to be better at articulating your requirements, almost like getting better at your prompts to teach the LLM behind the scenes what your intent is and helping it understand your intent and build a solution that meets your needs ultimately. So it's definitely changing the way we think and build our solutions. So it's no longer, as I say, no longer about building it, but more about engineering the larger process around it and understanding how those dependencies are going to work together to deliver your solution ultimately. So yeah, I think it's still there's lots of unknowns and there's still a lot of figuring out that we need to do. I think, especially personally for me, who's not got into this whole Copilot and agent thing at all. So, in fact, one of the standout things at the conference for me was the agent hack. So that was the attempt to break a Guinness World Record for the largest hackathon to be ever done in the world. And I think they fell short of the record in the end, but it was a great experience for me because I was sat next to people like Nathan Rose and Chris Huntingford and Eliza Benitez. And these, as you know, these guys are legends in the community, right? And for me, who's not done anything with Copilot Studio or agents, it was just fascinating to be sitting next to them and watching them and learning from them as to, you know, what this thing can do. And it was a massive eye opener for me because I've been missing out on all this action for, you know, the best part of a year and a half that Copilot Studio has been around now. So I personally need to spend a lot of time investing and learning in this thing. And I have to give credit to Nathan Rose here as well because he chose the use case that was going to keep me engaged throughout the 4 hours of the hackathon, which was we built a dedupe for Azure DevOps work items effectively in Copilot Studio. So a tool, an agent to do deduplication of work items. So obviously, because Azure DevOps is my thing, and I live and breathe Azure DevOps, it kept me engaged throughout. So yeah, you know, if Nathan's watching this, I'd publicly say a massive thank you for Nathan for helping me learn that on that day.
That's a pretty good idea. I'm not gonna lie, I hadn't even thought
Yeah.
about that. That's a good one. No, it sounds super fun. I feel like I heard a lot of other people that were there or enjoyed it, and you're right. Those people are legends, and I'm sure it was awesome. I'll have to reach out to Nathan to see how that wrapped up. What are, to your point on, you know, how it's changing and, you know, like the developer role is changing a little bit. What's like your practical advice, tips on ways that people like me or developers can help prepare themselves so in, you know, say in a year, in 3 years, like they can be, you know, there and ready to capitalize on that opportunity of how our roles and responsibilities are shifting.
Yeah. So I mean, I would say there's only two ways you can see this thing, right? You can either see it as a threat or an opportunity. And I would say you have to keep an open mind. And you know, things are evolving so fast. And if you want to remain meaningful, I would say you have to keep an open mind and be able to adapt to these things, right? So if you've spent the last 8 to 10 years being a Canvas apps guru, I hate to say it, but you're gonna have to, you know, learn to adapt and perhaps pick up new things because personally, I don't see a future for Canvas apps anymore. It might be a bit contentious to say that, but this is the reality of where we are because if you just need to look at something like generative pages, as I mentioned earlier, that's coming into the platform now. You know, if you can build a custom UI which is rich, which is responsive, and which looks the part just by using natural language prompts, then who's going to spend days pointing and clicking over a designer to build something that won't be as half as good? So you know, I think the skill really is being open minded about it and embracing the technology somewhat. It may mean having to learn new things, but that's nothing new for us people, right? So Power Platform, has been around for what, um, 8, 9, maybe 10 years. Prior to that, some of the parts of it have come from what was Dynamics CRM, and even that, personally for me, I kind of learned it as I landed on the job, because I came from a traditional .NET development background, and I had to learn it when I landed in the job. So that's demonstrating that you can still become successful if you kind of persevere over a period of time and be open to learning new things, and just accepting that there may be certain things that you don't know off the bat. You have to spend some time learning it and just being open to that. So I think that's the key, really.
Yeah, I definitely think that there's something pretty unique about the Power Platform community, and people that have been in it for 6 months and people that have been in it for, you know, 9 years, like you said, like that nobody nobody went to school to be a Power Platform consultant, like
No.
nobody did that. It wasn't like a thing.
No.
Like we all at some point was like, yo, let's learn about this thing,
Yeah.
and I don't know, we got hooked, I guess, and we're still here. We're the bums that are still
Yeah.
here. So, um, what? So I think you're right, and yeah, just having that mindset, I think, just to continue to learn. I mean, most people, I feel like, are, because we work in IT in tech, most people already are passionate about technology and the evolvement of technology. So I think it is fairly natural for at least the people that work within the industry to be fired up about the changes.
Yeah.
But where I feel like where we like really meet that like clash is then when we're working with businesses and like, dude, we just make widgets. Like, this is what we do. We don't care about technology. We don't whatever,
Yeah.
like that's where that clash is, and it's funny sometimes to have to try to remember that, especially
Yeah.
a lot of my experience is with manufacturing companies, where they're
Hmm.
manufacturing these big things, or, maybe more like industrial sort of things. And it's funny, like these people are like just blue collar working people, and like this is their job, this is their 9 to 5. Like they couldn't care less about, some of the tech behind it, but we're like nerding out about it, like, oh my goodness, this is
Yeah.
crazy. So it's just funny.
Yeah. No, I mean,
It
it's
is.
it's always been about being able to build solutions that ultimately give business value, right? There's a bigger motive and a bigger reason behind why we do this thing. It's not just about the technology itself. So the goal has always been being able to deliver the software in the most efficient manner. And I think AI coming into the platform is not a threat to that. It's still in the same kind of vein. It's still working towards that same goal. So for that reason, I don't think anything's changed really. It's just the tooling is slightly different.
Yeah. I want to hear more. What are some of these maybe even accidental events, you call them, that ultimately led you to the Power Platform?
Yeah. So when I started off in my well, even as a youngster, I had my heart set on software development for a very long time as a kid. And I deliberately structured my academic life to work towards that goal of becoming I said I used to say I want to become a programmer. So I went to school and I studied computing. I studied computer science at university, with the end goal of being wanting to be a software engineer of some sort. Um, I learned some web development and scripting languages at university, and then I eventually, through some industrial placement training, I got exposure to building applications for a business purpose, right? And that was my first exposure to what we now know as business applications. Essentially, it was a web application front end with a SQL Server backend database built in ASP.NET at the time. It was .NET 1.1, and I was fascinated by this thing. And then I wanted to get straight back into that after completing my degree, but it was quite competitive, so it was hard to get into that without any experience. So I settled for something slightly different, but still in kind of database design and programming for clinical trials for a large pharmaceuticals company. I did that for a couple of years, and my heart wasn't really set on that. I wanted to get back into .NET development, like proper software engineering. So after a couple of years, I did manage to get back into it, and that's when I started to learn about all of the good ALM principles around source control, automated builds and deployments, and unit testing, and all of these things. And I did that for a couple of years. I really enjoyed it, and then I started to look for other opportunities. And but I still wanted to stay in bespoke development, in .NET development. So the role I was going for was sold to me as a .NET developer position, but it turned out to be CRM development, dynamic CRM development. And I wasn't aware of that until I landed on day one in the job. So it took me by surprise a bit. So I raised it with a manager and saying, look, this is not a product or a platform I'm familiar with. It's going to take me some time to get up to speed. Are you sure I'm the right person for the job? They're like, oh yeah, don't worry. We'll train you up, and it's not very difficult. We'll help you. We'll give you the right tools and resources to be able to learn all of that, and you'll pick it up in no time. So I kind of went along with it. I said, okay, I'll learn it. It's cool, and I was really enjoying it. Because my first project was, it was actually still an ASP.NET custom web application, but integrated with Dynamics CRM version 4 at the time. So I wasn't doing so much of the backend development. I was doing the more front-end ASP.NET. So for that reason, I kind of went with the flow, and I started to learn more about the workflow orchestration engine behind the scenes, being able to build all of the internal backend applications that support all of this, and ultimately the database as well. So what appealed to me was the fact that, okay, I don't need to spin up my own custom SQL database on the back end. I can use point and click tools to design what is essentially a database. I'm getting web service based integration. I'm getting a robust data model behind the scenes. I'm getting capabilities to build backend server software. I'm getting ability to integrate custom applications to it. I'm getting the ability to write front-end client scripts. So this is actually not too bad, I thought to myself. And basically, I stayed with every version of the product since then. So from CRM 4 to 2011, 2013, 2015 to Dynamics 365, and right through to present day Power Platform. So it was a huge accident to start off with, but ultimately I've not looked back, and it's perhaps one of the best things that happened in my career.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that's so funny. I can remember. So my story is not that similar, but in a little bit, in that I can remember I knew what I was signing up for a little bit. Um but I also, when I was signing up for it, had no idea like what it actually was, you know?
Yeah.
The job description was correct. I'll tell you that. I can't relate to you in that way. But I can remember like preparing for my interviews, like Googling Microsoft Dynamics and like watching Lisa Crosby videos and like trying to figure out what this
Yeah.
stuff is, and like, oh my
Yeah.
goodness, like, okay, I'm just trying to figure it out. I didn't want to be an accountant. I'm like, all right, what is going on here? And it's
Yeah.
funny how, yeah, really through a friend, found out about the whole industry, and ultimately landed that first job, and has led me to this today. So it's pretty funny, and I feel like, I'm sure you would agree, like, I feel like everybody has the same, like, a similar story, right? Like I feel like
Yeah.
every single person in the industry is just like somehow randomly fallen into it, or they had some
Yeah.
random project that, with some company using Dynamics, and it just, like, one thing led to another.
Yeah, and I think it's just one of the things, because it's still very much a niche. People don't set about going into this space intentionally. It just happens as a result of, okay, you took this junction, you turned left here, you turned right there, and you ended up in Power Platform, sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you balance? All right, so now I'm thinking, how did you balance finding your ALM niche? You
Mhm.
obviously are an expert in much more than ALM. I'm not trying to take anything away from that, but like, how do you balance niching down, but as well, like, staying updated and knowledgeable enough about the different products and different things out there to be an effective consultant or architect?
Yeah, that's a really tough one, right? And I have to admit, I've really struggled with this. because I've intentionally doubled down on this niche around, as you say, the ALM side of it. But ultimately, I can't be good at ALM if I don't know the technology of the products or the software solutions that I'm trying to deploy. So although I own the release management, I still need to understand, how do these components all hand together? What are the potential dependencies I need to look out for? How do they all work? How they're all going to function in the target environment after they've been deployed? So it kind of almost forces me to have an awareness of these things, even if I'm not kind of building it myself. So I try in my day job, what I try and do is I try and stay close to the actual delivery team who are building it, even though I'm not doing the build work myself. I still provide them with technical guidance and kind of inspiration as to how they should design their solutions in a way that will be ALM friendly, they will be healthy in terms of performance, and they follow the kind of standards that Microsoft set in terms of, following the design principles and the frameworks to make them extensible and future proof and all those kinds of best practices. So my role isn't, what I'm saying is my role isn't exclusively ALM, although that is my specialty. I'm kind of keeping my eye in a lot of other like pies in the periphery as well, if that makes sense. So it kind of forces me to keep up to date with
Yeah.
those things as well. Sometimes I still wish that I have more time to allocate to learning those kind of enhanced development skills myself as well. But being independent, I kind of need to go with where the work is, right, and that takes me towards my specialty. So I can't really complain, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I think about this. I don't know. I'm sure you know a friend of mine, Howden Rashid. He's another MVP,
Yeah.
great person in the community. He would probably attribute this to somebody else, but the last time I heard it was a post of his. So I'm gonna say he talked about this, and he had a diagram where it was basically like the letter T, right? And it was like you need to have some kind of formal knowledge and in a broad width, but in one of them having the length, the bottom, the up and down part of the T, right? Like a lot of depth.
Yeah.
That's also some advice that I've got, and I feel like we've talked regularly on this channel about. How can you speak to that? And like you just said there, like you work privately. How has that helped support your career and encouraging people to, not forget everything else and block out everything else, but to really figure out what it is that they enjoy and really niche down and become the subject matter expert in that thing?
Yeah, so for me, it kind of happened as a result of a mix of experiences I had early in my career, right? So, as I said to you, because I came from a .NET developer background, things like source control and automated builds and deployments and unit testing, they were commonplace in that space. But when I landed in Dynamics development, it was totally unheard of. And that was a shock to my system because ultimately we're still building enterprise software, and you can't build enterprise software without a reliable, repeatable, robust, scalable process to deliver those things, and deliver those things in a way that is transportable across environments and all of those kinds of things. So it was, as I say, it was a shock to my system. So I consciously spent quite a bit of time doing a bit of research around, is this really not possible in this platform? At the time, it wasn't. But as it evolved and as the tooling matured, it became possible. It became a reality. And the way I learned about it was through my interaction in the community. Other people were talking about these sorts of things. So I made a conscious effort to connect with those people and meet them and go to user groups and conferences to learn more about this stuff. And as the platform evolved, I started to learn about all of the APIs and the toolings which made this thing possible. And then over time, I gradually had the opportunities to work on projects which started to do all of this thing, and then eventually became a reality. So it and then it got to the point where, before I learned it all, I landed on a project which required me to do deployments manually, on large enterprise grade projects with complex, dependency matrices between all the different components involved. So, that's where I lost all my hair, and all, the hair I had left was all became gray, basically. It was a stressful time. So, what motivated me was I didn't want to do that again. So, I want to learn a better way of doing deployments, such that, what I strive for now is basically click a button, go away, come back after a while, and hopefully it should be all done. And that's what I strive for now. And so it was my prior bad experiences which forced me to learn this thing and become a specialist in this thing.
Sure. Man, that's so. I mean, I'll just say. I mean, you look like you got a gray head of hair, man. Don't discredit it. All right, it's gray, sure, but it looks full. So I don't. I'm jealous. I'm jealous of the fullness. All right.
Thank you.
Now, sweet. We we're about at time, man. This conversation has been awesome. I've loved chit chatting with you, Parvez. I want to know a little bit more. Switch over to our after hours happy hour. Learn a little bit more about you and who you are outside of ALM. Before we got on, we joked like if there is somebody outside of ALM, I'm sure we could all relate.
Yeah.
Like tell me a little bit more about you, man. What are some things you're passionate about outside of work?
Yeah, so outside of work, I'm a family man basically. We live as an extended family, so that's myself, my siblings, my parents, my wife, my siblings' children. So we all live under one roof, and it keeps me sane. It keeps me happy. Ultimately, what I do work-wise is to serve that family, right? And that's what I'm mostly passionate about. Although they would say I'm only passionate about work, and work takes most of my time. That's what they would say. But yeah, being an independent contractor, it's kind of I'm juggling many plates most of the time, so it's mostly about work. But I have been more recently starting to explore a bit of traveling around the world as well. So I'm quite enjoying the Middle East region at the moment. The last few years, I've explored places like the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, um, Jordan. I'm planning to go to Jordan again later this year, and Uzbekistan as well. I'm planning to go to as well. So there's a lot of kind of cultural reasons and kind of rich history I'm looking to explore there, and that's my main driver to kind of reconnect with those things, those parts of life.
Very cool. Dude, living with that much family has to be super awesome, super like really fill your cup, spending that much time with them. But that also sounds like a lot, I mean, I'm not saying it's a good or bad thing, but I'm sure that's a full house.
No, it's pretty cool. I mean, it's great that I get a bit of a support network around me, right? So when I'm busy doing work, I've got other chores and things that need to be done at home, or some admin to sort out. There's people around who can help out with those things, and it just spreads the load and keeps life interesting, right? So yeah, I really enjoy it.
Man, that's super awesome. That's super special. I feel like at least in the United States culturally, like that's just not a thing. But I also think
It's not here either.
it's super cool and special. Really?
Yeah. I think I'm a bit of an exception. I don't think you'll find many people who live like this.
That's so funny. But anyways, yeah, I think that is really cool. And being close to family is really special. I mean, when I this was years ago now, but I grew up in Indiana, and then I ended up going to college, like 14 hours away from my parents and my family. And like just like being out on your own, like it was great. It was really formative. It really pushed me to be better. And I do think getting away is helpful to an extent. But just recently moved back to be back near some family, and it's really special at the same time too, being near some family and having that support system, especially as families grow, having, like you said, different people to lean on and help and support and everything. So it's really special.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. No, it's really good. I mean, it's ultimately we're all
Definitely.
humans, right? Even despite working in technology all day, the last thing you want is to sit in front of a computer in the evenings as well. So it's definitely nice to reconnect with real humans.
Definitely, definitely, and unplug a little bit. Well, sweet man, thank you so much for the time and the conversation. I think it's been super valuable. If not to anybody watching, it at least has been to me. If people were listening to this and were, impacted in some way and wanted to get in contact with you, what would be the best way for them to reach you?
LinkedIn is the best place. That's normally my home. I'm checking LinkedIn pretty much every few hours during the day. So yeah, that'd be the best way to contact me.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll be sure to have a link to that down in the description down below, so then people can find the right Parvez on LinkedIn. All right, we'll make sure they find the right one. So no,
Nice
we'll
one. Thanks,
get
Griffin.
you. We'll get you. Yeah, sweet. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you to you for sticking to end the video. My name is Griffin Lickfeld, the host of the Citizen Developer Channel, PowerTalks podcast, and I'm excited to connect with you in the next one.